Hi everyone, thank you for purchasing the Info Grid Shopify section by qwiqode. In this video, I'll be showing you how to actually use it. So if you haven't installed it yet, please refer to the separate video included in the package. And you also have access to a PDF with all of the instructions of how to edit this section. So to get started, head over to your theme editor. On the left side, you go in and add section. You can search for the section by just start typing in InfoGrid, and you get the InfoGrid right there. On the left side, you have blocks, each one representing one of these cell items in the grid. You can select either an image or a text block. You'd be able to drag and drop them if you want to change the type of layout, move them around, hide them. You can add up to 16 of them. We'll get started by adding a little bit of content and then head over to all the different settings. So if you click on image, it's basically very straightforward. Just select an image, go in there, let's add in another image, and one more, like so. And then for for text blocks, you just click on the text block. You can change the text up here, feature 1, just as an example. You could select the HTML element for this. So you can use, H3s, H4s from 1 to 6. It's good for SEO, for the importance and the hierarchy of the importance of that text. Another benefit of doing this is that it will inherit your theme's settings for these blocks, so that you won't have to customize each one if you want to keep it the same styling as the remainder of your site. Here you would enter in the text that you like. You don't have to have anything. You can just remove it as well. By removing it, it just centers the text right there. You can add a button. Once you add in a button label and a link, so let's just put in, let's say, a link to a product. You get a button in here. We can adjust the styling later on. Moving down, you could select the text alignment of the whole block, whether you want it left or right or center, as well as top and vertical alignment as well. You could change the background color of it. Later on, we'll change the text of that as well. But actually, let's just use a different color just so it be clear. Let's do a little gray like that. We can add more padding. Padding is the distance within the block itself. So you can add in more to make it less wide like that. And same thing for the top and bottom, though in this case, it's not really important. If we do vertical top, then you can see much more of the difference. But usually, depending on your design, you can choose center alignment. You have these same padding and padding and margins for the mobile version as well, so you can set that up separately if you like. Moving on down, you could, if you want to use a separate color or than what your theme provides, then you can just go ahead and change it up here like that, or you can use a custom font by either selecting Shopify's selection of fonts, or you could put in the font family as it's set in the CSS of your theme as well. Usually, leaving this empty will inherit the theme's fonts. Go in here and set the font weight of the font itself. And here you have margins. You could put more bottom margin, for instance, to give more distance between the text and the title itself. You can give it a particular font size that you'd like. If you want something else, line height, if you have multiple lines, and letter spacing as well. For that, same settings for the mobile. So scrolling on down, text block styling, same thing here. You can set up the font weight. You can change the color of the font itself. So let's just make it dark red or something like that. We have the same adjustments for margins for the text block and font size, line height, and letter spacing. And the same goes for the text block styling. So these are the settings that we have for each of the blocks. We decided to keep these separately so that you have the opportunity to change each one, if you'd like, in terms of your design, to have different font sizes or different colors or different background colors for each one of these blocks, instead of making it global and having all of them change, at once. So that gives you more freedom and flexibility to do whatever you'd like to do. So moving on, we go to the global settings of the infogrid. Up here, we have an area where we can set the section title to be whatever we'd like to do. The HTML element, as I described before, you can change that from H1 to H6. We could set a background color for the entire section. So if I select a background color, for instance, let's choose a different color so we can see the differences. The whole section gets a background like that. Then we have section width. For section width, you can either keep it at regular and then play with a maximum width like that if you'd like it to be thinner or more wide, like so, and to align with other text sections that you have. Or you have the opportunity to make it full width, and then it stretches to the very edges of the screen. You can also set the max width, keeping the background all the way to the edges, but then still constraining the width of the grid itself. So that's another option to adjust. You can select how many grid items or how many columns you'd like to have. So we have the option to do 2, 3, or 4. So selecting 2, it'll just be just like that. And so in this case, for instance, if you'd like them to be alternating, then you would just go back over to the left side, and then you can just drag that over and have them alternating like that. Another option, you could select 4, and then we have, we could do it like this. You have the option to have them alternating, and then if you just want one row, for instance, you could just hide these, and then you'd have 4 in a row. Let's just keep it at 3 for now. Moving on down, we can add gaps between the cells. So you could add gaps just for the rows, for instance, like that. Make it more prominent. Or you can do for the columns, or you can do both, of course. Next, you can adjust the image dimension. So right now we have the default set to square, but you can use the original images. So like, for instance, here we have a portrait image. This one, I believe, is also original portrait. Usually the rows keep the same height. So if one is portrait and one isn't, the other image should adjust itself accordingly. This row, for instance, has just a landscape, so a landscape image as an original, so it adjusts that way. Or you can make all of them landscape, and then there's some cropping that occurs to the image, or portrait, like so. Even if the image itself isn't portrait, you could do something like that if you'd like. Next, we have section top margin and bottom margin and padding. So margins, as we said, margin is the distance between the entire section and anything above or below or to the sides of it. So you probably have another section here. So if you want more space between them, you can just push that top margin or the bottom margin below. Padding, as as mentioned, is the distance within the section itself. So if you want more space between the very top and the title, you can set the padding as so, and padding in the bottom as well, like that. Under mobile, we have the same settings for the gaps and the margins and padding. And you can select how many you'd like to show in the column. So the default is one column on mobile, but you can also select two. But this really does depend on how much text you have here and what type of image you have in order for it to really be visible and clear what you're showing. So usually it's better to do one, but it really does depend on your specific case. Moving down, section, let's go back to desktop. Section title, styling. So here we can also, if you don't want to use the default theme styling, you can set it however you'd like. Like that, you can also give text alignment. Choose a custom font as described, and then margins as well. You could do more margins. So if this is too close for you, you can push it down. You could set the font size, line height, and letter spacing as well as for the mobile device view. Next, for the button styling, here you have this button here that's in default right now, but you can change that as well. You could change the fonts, you could change the font weight. So, and then you have an option to choose a style, whether it's CTA or just a text-only block. Text-only is obviously will look just like that, but if you do CTA and then move down here to below, you could set the colors. So you have a background color of the button. You change the color of the button. You can also give a border color. Let's just choose red so you can see the differences. Now you don't see the color yet because scrolling right back up here, we have to give the button a border. So if we give a border of 3 pixels, then it appears. And then you can also give it a radius to round the corners up even more, however you'd like, so on. You can also set the width of the button however you'd like it to appear. Top margin, if you want more space between the text and the button, that can be done as well as bottom margin, though that's not as important since there's nothing that can go underneath here. Next, we have button horizontal padding and vertical padding, which is the space within, so we can make it much bigger like that. This horizontal padding really does depend on the maximum width size that you select. So you can make a really small padding and then make like that. Then we can add in more padding that way. Oops. It's kind of a play between these two settings to get it looking correctly. And then we have the same options here for for mobile, including font size, letter spacing for mobile for the button itself. And then we have the colors here, and we have also option to set the hover colors. So we could do button cover there like that, and then let's just change this to black, let's say, or let's do this white, and then the color will be blue. So that when you hover over, you can have this effect. Obviously, this won't work on mobile, but that's the selection you have there. So that's it. Thank you again, and we hope this section helps you achieve your website goals. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us on the support section of the website or email us on the contact page.